Exercise 18-17, Income Statements for Different Types of Companies. Selected data for the 3 companies are given below. All inventory amounts are ending balances and all amounts are in millions. So we can view the data here, and then using the above data, calculate the operating income for each company. Enter amounts in millions as provided to you in the problem statement. So we're going to begin by calculating the operating income for Company A. So when we open up our data, let's have a look here. What type of company is Company A? We've got that finished goods inventory, we've got work in process inventory, and we've got cost of goods manufactured down here at the bottom. And we've also got raw materials inventory here at the bottom if we scroll down. So what type of company is that? So this means we're going to go back to our slide here and look at our income statement of a manufacturing company. So for the manufacturing company, we have beginning finished goods inventory, ending finished goods inventory, all used to calculate cost of goods sold. And fortunately for us, we have cost of goods sold given to us already and calculated back on this data table. And then getting back to this slide, this income statement is an internal document because it's showing how the cost of goods sold is calculated. But for this problem, it's not. Notice on our slide, we start with sales revenue and then minus cost of goods sold gives us gross profit. And we have gross profit over here in our problem. So we only have 2 spots. So the first one is going to be that net sales revenue. And then the next one is going to be that cost of goods sold compiled. So again, net sales revenue has been given to us here for 37 million, and we're just going to type that in as 37 as we are just inputting this as millions of dollars. And again, cost of goods sold has been given to us here for 22 million. And then we're going to take that 37 million and subtract the 22 million of cost of goods sold from our revenue to get gross profit. So that is going to be a total of 15 million for the gross profit. So next up, we're going to get our selling and administrative expenses, and those have also been given to us here. So first, when we scroll down, we have selling expenses for 5 million. So we'll go ahead and input selling expenses for 5 million. And then we have the administrative expenses for 4 million there. So we'll add those up, and that's going to give us a total of selling and administrative expenses of 9 million. And then in order to get our operating income, we subtract the selling and administrative expenses of 9 million from 15 million. So that is going to be a total of 6 million. And we can go ahead and check our answer. Fantastic. So again, let's look back at that slide of the different companies. So if this income statement was an internal document, they would show how cost of goods sold is calculated like this one has done. But because this is just going to be given to investors and creditors, in other words, the general public, they do not show exactly how cost of goods sold is calculated. Okay, so let's move on to Company B. So now calculate the operating income for Company B. As far as their income statement items, it looks like they only have service revenue and 2 expenses, so wage expense and rent expense. So again, they're going to be a service company here. Clue, service revenue right there. So we will input service revenue first, and that is going to be 40 million. And then we have our 2 expenses, the wage expense for 19 million and the rent expense, and that is 12 million. So we can go ahead and add those through for a total expense of 31 million. And then we will subtract those total expenses from our service revenue in order to get operating income, and that is going to give us an operating income of 9 million for operating income. So let's go ahead and check our answer for Company B. Excellent. Okay. And now we're moving on to company C. So we have to calculate their operating income as well. And then with company C, we can tell that this is a merchandising company because it has a merchandising inventory. So let me go back and show you and remind you what the income statement looks like for a merchandising company. We're going to start with sales revenue, subtract cost of goods sold, and if the cost of goods sold, or excuse me, if this income statement is an internal document, they're going to show you how a cost of goods sold is broken down. However, here we've got gross profit and only 2 lines above that in the problem, so that means we're going to start with sales revenue, and then we're going to subtract cost of goods sold. So apparently this is not an internal document here, so this is going to be used for the general public. So we start with sales revenue, and that is 35 million. And then we have to subtract the cost of goods sold. So I've got cost of goods sold here, and then it's been calculated here for us for 20 million. And so we subtract the cost of goods sold from the net sales revenue to get gross profit. So that is going to be 15 million in gross profit. And then next up we have our selling and administrative expenses. And so we can see here we have selling expense of 3 million, so we'll input that first. And then we do have our administrative expenses of 5 million, and we'll put that as well for 5. And then we're going to go ahead and add those through to get 8 million of total selling administrative expenses. Looks like we missed the L. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract the total selling and administrative expenses from gross profit to get our operating income. So our operating income is going to be 7 million. Let's go ahead and check our answer. Well done. So in future homework problems, we will sometimes have to show how the cost of goods sold is calculated. In other words, we won't have a cost of goods sold calculated for us like in this problem in the data table, and we'll have to break it out like in this beginning finished goods plus cost of goods manufactured equals goods available for sale minus ending inventory gives you the cost of goods sold. So you need to get used to working with the cost of goods sold formula, and that is it.